Hi everybody, so my name is Dr. Jessica Cook and I am an adjunct instructor for the School of Education at the College of St. Scholastica. Today we are just doing a really brief overview of standardization and why that matters for assessments, particularly important for our 5650 course when we're looking at assessments and determination of eligibility for special education services. So one thing I wanted to talk about first was if you were to search or start looking for information about standardized testing, you will go down a rabbit hole, completely different topic, talking about statewide assessments and whether or not they're appropriate for students with disabilities. So what we want to do is start using this terminology right up here at the top, and that's particularly important when we're talking about assessments because this, standardization, is talking more about using the exact same setting, the exact same language when you are doing an assessment for a student. So I think that this part can be really difficult for us as teachers because we work so hard to have that rapport with our students. We work really hard on those relationships. As part of standardization is that we are all doing the exact same testing conditions, the exact same language when we are assessing a child. And so I know that that can be challenging. I know as a teacher I struggled with it as well. I sometimes would have to tell, especially at the elementary level, the students that I was turning, kind of into a robot once the direction started. But it is really important. So we're going to talk a little bit more about why, and I will include these links for you guys as well. So I liked this part where it was talking about standardized procedure. I think we often talk about language as in we want to be using the exact same language. So for example, if I was giving an assessment to a fourth grade student in Duluth, and somebody was giving that exact same assessment to a fourth grade student in the Twin Cities, I want to make sure that we, at the end of it, are speaking the same language with our results and that we can say that we feel that those two set of results are comparable, right? So we want to know that the exact same conditions are happening for that child. I like this part about setting, though. I think that that's not talked about enough, and it's really important because it can matter. If one child's given unfair testing conditions, it can completely change their score, right? So for example, if somebody's one-on-one in a quiet setting, which is probably what it should be, or if somebody's in a whole group in the back of a classroom having the assessment done, then those are not necessarily the same types of results. So that's not actually something that's fair or that's standardized. So this particular website is for scientific data, but I really like that at the beginning it's talking about that it's a briefing. So you're explaining to the students what's happening, why this certain language is going to be used. So again, they want to know what's happening, like why is that actually something that's different than the normal interactions with you. You're doing standardized instructions, and again, those will be provided to you in the assessments that you use, so that's not something that you'll have to memorize or anything like that. Again, it's just really important, and we're talking about why you have to stick to the script and why that part actually really matters. And then, excuse me, at the end they called it debriefing, and I think that's important. At the end, it's basically that same sort of like closing for the assessment and then kind of moving back into that teacher mode again, back to the rapport with the student. So I thought this one was useful. I'm also going to include here ProEd is a clearinghouse that sells different types of educational assessments. It's one of many. There's other different ones, but I like this one. I feel like if you're early in your teaching career that the paper copy of their catalog is actually easier to navigate because you can figure out what it is that you're looking for, right? I feel like later on as you sort of know, like this is the assessment I want to give, and then you kind of like can go through and find it, that's a little bit easier. But what I wanted to show you on here is that it shows again why that standardization, is important. You want to make sure that you stay within the parameters of the assessment, otherwise it's not valid, okay? And then you're also, the website will have this type of a blurb for every single assessment. It gives you the normative data, so you're wanting to know, was the test given to 200 people, in this case 2,500 people? So you kind of want to know that validity and the reliability of your test that's given, and then same thing down here, it's talking about making sure that it's standardized instructions and directions and everything like that. So hopefully that's helpful. Just a really quick overview of standardization, why that matters. If you are giving a more informal test to one of your students, then the instructions can be completely how you need to do that. It can be, a survey information or an interview. Those instructions don't matter as much for the standardization as they would for all the types of standardized tests that are used for determining evaluation. So make sure that you ask your instructor if you have further questions. Hopefully that's useful. Thanks, guys. Bye.